Hello, I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you from Efrat on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I'm going to discuss just the very first beginning of this week's Torah reading, this week's Parsha, which is Parsha Vaeyrah. And I'm going to talk about the concept of and the question of why is God rebuking Moses because he complained. And we're going to see what message we can learn from this. As I always talk about, the Torah is not just giving us a bunch of stories. It's not just a history book or a storybook, but it's a manual, an owner's manual for living in life. And it's an owner's manual for teaching us how to live today. So what do we learn from this give and take between Moses and God? First of all, to put it in context, you have to go back to a few sentences before the end of last week's Parsha. Last week's Parsha was Parsha Shemot. And you recall, just in terms of what happened, God sent Moses to tell Pharaoh, let my people go. And after telling Pharaoh that, what did Pharaoh do? Initially, instead of letting them go, he increased their work. He gave them greater quantities of things to complete without giving them the raw materials. They had to fashion their own raw materials. He made life more difficult. So at the end of last week's Parsha, goes to Hashem and he says, May Oz Ba'asi El Paro, since I've come to Paro and spoken in your name, Hera La'am Hazeh, he has done evil to this people. And he didn't, he, your people were not saved. Instead of having a good result, we had an evil result. Evil things were happening. And then God replied to him at the last pasuk. He says, "Vayomer Hashem al Moshe." God said to Moshe, "Atatira asher esel of Paro." You're now going to see what I'm going to do to Paro. How I'm going to redeem the children of Israel. And this week's parsha starts, "Vayedaber Elohim el Moshe, vayomer Elav ani Adonai." God spoke to Moshe, said to him, "I am the Lord your God." Now we have two references to the name God in this first sentence. We have Elohim, and we have the Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. The word Elohim is a symbol of God's justice in the world. It's kind of a harsh way of speaking. Uh, Yud Kei Vav Kei Hashem at the end is a symbol of God's mercy. So the question is raised as to why. Why was God speaking to Moshe in a matter of rebuke? And this goes on by following few psukim. He says, "Era el Avram el Yitzchak el Yaakov el Shaddai." I appeared before Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob with the name Everlasting God. Ushmi Hashem L'Dati. They didn't know my name of mercy of Yud Kei Vav Kei. And then he goes on to say, God, Hashem tells Moshe, I established my covenant with them, uh, and all these good things. I heard the cries of Bnei Israel. So he's telling this, and it's a matter of rebuke. So put it in perspective. Moshe is the leader. I mean, he's appointed the leader of the Jewish people by God. Does a leader not have responsibility to look out for best the best resolve for his people? Does a leader not have a duty to complain if something is wrong? So so Rashi indicates that God spoke to him sternly as a rebuke for the way he complained. So what's wrong with the way he complained? Dr. Abraham Tversky brings a very interesting uh, comment on this, and he says he brings in the quote of Rabbi Yaakov Naiman, he brings a quote, and he says the problem with Moshe's complaint to God is that he used the wrong words. He said, "Why have you done evil to this people? Hara, hara ba'einav. Why have you done evil?" He was complaining about things that appeared evil, things that appeared bad. He's saying they were evil, they were bad. The Baal Shem Tov says that even when bad things are seemingly bad things are happening to you, you should never say this is bad, but this is bitter. Bitter. It's painful. It's difficult. You give a child medicine. A child doesn't want to take a bitter medicine, and he may resist. Uh, but it's not bad because it's going to cure whatever the problem is that the child is having. Same thing with the experiences in life. Things appear bitter. Things appear painful, and they are painful. There are tragedies that happen, especially right now in this and what we're going through. There are tragedies that occur, but we have to remember one thing that God created this world to create a world of chesed, to create a world of kindness. He wanted everything to be great for his people. God did not create evil. God did not create bad things. So when we complain and we say this is bad, you are then contradicting God's entire creation of the world. And that was the rebuke that he gave to Moses. Moses said, "Why have you done this evil thing?" That's the wrong way to complain to God. We can certainly complain to God. If things happen, it's okay to complain. God likes to hear our complaints. In fact, he heard our groaning in Egypt. That's why he brought us out. But the complaints have to be on the nature of this is really difficult. This is bitter. This is really hard for me. But not to say that it's bad or it's evil. That saying something is bad or evil contradicts what God is doing in this world because we know that I think we talked about it last week. I'm not sure if it was this year or another. Rabbi Akiva uh, gave the story about the travails that happened to him. And he says, "Call David Rahmana Latavavid." Everything that God does is for the good. He had all these occurrences happening uh, with his goat being stolen, being eaten by a wolf, his lanterns going out, when he couldn't find a place to sleep. All these things happened. Everything that happened, he said, was for the good. And certainly when the morning happened, he saw it was good because there was an invading force that had uh, invaded the city and taken everybody captive. So what looks bad, we really have to put it in the right perspective and understand that God does not do what is bad. And this is a message that we can learn today. We could go around uh, with our, just moping about everything that's occurring to us, or we can go around with optimism, knowing that even though we don't understand why God is doing something, nonetheless, we have to believe. It's a basic tenet of Amunah, certainly the basic belief that a Jew must have in God, that everything that God does is for the good. Kol Dovi Rahmana L'Tavavi. Everything that God does is for our good. I bless us all to be able to open up our consciousness, to be able to recognize that, to not complain to God about bad things or evil things. You can question, why is this happening to me? But don't call it evil or bad. Call it bitter, difficult. I thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, and I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.